Alicia Daniel Blake. I'm the daughter of Gwendolyn Alberta Adams Daniel. I would describe Mommy as a quiet storm in the sense that she didn't speak much. She wasn't very verbal. She didn't always feel comfortable expressing how she felt. And so what the result of that was that she would often show it in action. So some of the times she would suppress her true feelings, and then when she did let them out, that was a storm path. Persons would be surprised at her demeanor or the way in which she could be very frank and bold, and it didn't happen often, but it did. So she was someone who many persons drew to. For example, wherever my dad worked, there were always several persons who reached out to us personally, and my dad is Reverend Wilfred Daniel. And she would always make sure that those persons know that she appreciated them. And one that comes to mind is Mrs. Body in Sandy Point. When my father was at St. Anne's Parish, she was very kind to us, and so every year on Mrs. Body's birthday up until her death, she would send her a bouquet of flowers. As a mother, she was very caring, but as I said, she wasn't always comfortable expressing herself, so you had to get to know her and you had to interpret her actions in order to understand what she felt. And so growing up, there would have been challenges, but in hindsight, you realize, as myself and my brother have discussed, that it was all love. There was a total of 4 children that my mom had. Myself and my brother survived. However, there were 2 that she lost. She lost one at birth. Specifically, he was stillborn, and then she lost another one after several days due to whatever complications. So the first one would have been Philip in 1973 and Josh in 1980, and I know the names because she spoke about them not in the sense that she knew details, of course, because the time span was very short, but in the sense that there was a big space between myself and my brother. So oftentimes when persons mention that, oh, there's a big space between you two, one of my parents would respond and say, there were 2 others between. In hindsight, I think it was a way for them to cope with their loss. Because as a child, I often wondered, why would they mention this? You know, it being, to me, even as a child, as something painful. But they did. I came across the book because it was on social media. And at the time, I was working at Studio 327, and I invited Jan to come on Good Morning SK and to tell us about the book. Afterwards, I secured a copy of the book, got it autographed. I said, okay, well, this is something that my mother might be interested in reading. I gave it to her, and then surprisingly, in January, when I came for a visit, she told me, okay, well, I went and I got your brother's certificates, birth certificates. And I was like, Mommy, really? And she was like, yes, I got your brother's certificates. And she said it with a sense of pride and accomplishment. I thought to myself, so that means my mother had been suffering all along, and that this may be her sense of closure. When those 2 miscarriages occurred, there was nothing in St. Kitts called therapy. Even if there was, it was something that was hidden or something that persons did not want to access, and I know my mother never accessed it, if it was even available. So this was her way of closure. Lifting the weight of miscarriage is an excellent resource. It helps you filter through your feelings for those persons who have had miscarriages. It also gives a sense of where to go on. What are some of the other steps that I can take toward healing? She is the person who gave me my values. Of course, my father did as well, but my mother was the one who would have been in the house most, in the sense that my father would be busy some of the times. And so she was the one who was my sounding board. So, we would have chats and talk about many things, if she was willing to do that. Because as I did mention, it depended on if she was in a talkative mood at the time. So, but I do miss her presence very much.